Elon Musk has just celebrated becoming the wealthiest man today with a $188 billion net worth, which is cool. But today we're going to cover the richest man in history with over $400 billion net worth. And you're going to learn that the legend of one man's riches is actually a story about infrastructure and generational wealth. My name is Devon Travell, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game, and this is Black Study Snacks, where we give you bite-sized knowledge for hungry, melanated minds. Let's get snacked. Black excellence, black habits, this black medicine. So before we get into the actual legend and story of Mansa Kankan Musa, aka Mansa Musa, we have to cover a little bit of the lineage that led up to it, because Mansa Musa did inherit the kingdom of Mali. The original emperor of Mali was Mansa Keita, also known as the Lion King. Does Disney owe somebody some money? Mansa Keita is the OG, the original emperor of Mali, the one that fought the wars in order to bring the empire together. But he passed away and went on to the clouds in the sky in 1255 AD. In 1312 AD, Mansa Bakari, which was the uncle of Mansa Musa, try to keep up with the names. I'm sorry, I'll try to have words up here to keep it all straight. But in 1312 AD, Mansa Bakari wanted to explore the world, and he sent scouts out to the horizon of the ocean. And back then, they didn't really know what was on the other side of that edge, right? It was unsure if the world was flat, the world was round, if it was a rhombus, if it was a triangle. People were unsure about the world. So when he sent those scouts out to the edge of the ocean, there was some people that thought they may fall right off. But he sent ships out there, and a lot of ships were seen going in the ocean and then being taken by some strong river current in the middle of the ocean. One ship, however, saw what was going on. It was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and make a U-turn. And they came back to Mali and reported back to Mansa Bakari what had transpired. After learning that, Mansa Bakari wanted to find out for himself, so he created an entire fleet with gold, with animals, with grains, with people, and he left Mansa Musa as his deputy, right? So he left, went on this voyage, and he never returned. Based on tradition, because he never returned, Mansa Musa became the official emperor of Mali. And we now know that that strong river in the middle of the ocean is actually an oceanic current that goes from Africa all the way to South America. Black magic, black excellence, black habits, this black medicine, everything black. All right, so some things that I find interesting about just the lineage, right, of Mansa Musa is, one, your story does not always end with you. So we know Mansa Musa as the wealthiest person to ever walk this planet. He's the legend, but there's before him Bakari, before him Keita, so there's a long lineage. So for me or for you out there, you might not be the person that becomes the wealthiest. You might not be the number one motivational speaker. You might not become the number one glasses manufacturer, but you can inspire the person that does become of it. Right? I think we heard that quote from Tupac. Like, I might not change the world, but I will be that spark that helps someone else change the world. So your story does not always have to end with you. So this has two real world implications. One is it's very important to learn how to pass down wealth. This is called estate planning, right? Create your will, create your trust. How are you going to pass down your assets, your knowledge, your wealth to the next generation for them to build on it? But it also leads to the question on how are you empowering other people? All right, so we're hoping that these Black Study Snacks and our resources are empowering you to learn more about your ancestors, to learn more about Black history. Steve Jobs created the iPhone to empower people to, take control of their technology. Martin Luther King empowered people to hope and to dream about better days. So how are you, through whatever you're doing, it can be art, It can be videos, it can be fashion, video games, engineering, but how are you empowering other people, your family, or generations to come? Second, something that I find a little bit interesting is that oceanic current, or that strong river, led to South America. We know that South America and the North Americas had ancient civilization like the Mayas, the Incas, the Aztecs, the Taínos. So what I'm wondering is, did Mansa Abu Bakari make it to South America? Did all the other ships that he sent before him make it to South America? And once they landed, what happened? In the creation of generational wealth, the passing on of assets is just as important as the maintenance and growth of those assets. In our last video, we covered how Mansa Musa inherited the amazing, wealthy kingdom of Mali. Today, we're going to cover what he did with that empire and how he really took it to the next level. My name is Devon Travell, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game, and this is Black Study Snacks. We give you bite-sized knowledge for hungry, melanated minds. Let's get snacking. Magic, black excellence, black habits, this black. So by now, we all should know the story of Mansa Musa and how he journeyed on his Hajj, or his journey to Mecca. Through that journey, he stopped in Cairo, where he spent 72,000, I'll say it one more time for the people in the front, 72,000 pounds of gold, which today is worth over $1 billion. We know today that because he spent so much, him and his entourage of people spent so much gold and so much money in Cairo, it actually disrupted the entire market of Cairo. That is just one part of the amazing legend of Mansa Musa. He did so much more to really set Mali apart and really set the standard for a modern empire. Top priority for Mansa Musa as he became king was to make the trade routes safe. So what he did was he used his army in order to push out the bandits and the thieves that would usually hide and linger along the trade routes. What this did, it was very strategic, what this did was it allowed merchants and travelers now to carry more gold with them. So if I'm a merchant from Mali, I can carry the gold, the salt, the natural resources, and I can carry it somewhere else and exchange those goods for the foreign goods. And now I can come back to Mali with more foreign goods because I was able to take more money or more gold. Very smart. The king also built schools and mosques all throughout the empire, creating an infrastructure for knowledge and culture. Some of those mosques were later used to create the first university in the world, the University of Timbuktu. Another very strategic thing that the king did was, and you see this today, like when you have your entourage of people, right? You want to make sure everyone has, the best car, the best clothes, the best whip, right? So what he did was, there was the Malayan cavalry, and this is the Black Ops, the 007s of the Malayan army that reported directly to Mansa Musa himself. He made sure all of them had Sudanese horses, which back in the day was like the Benz, the Ferrari, the Tesla, whatever you think is one of the highest level of cars. This was the best, the strongest, the tallest, and the longest horse that you could find in the world. And he made sure whenever there was a Sudanese horse available on the market, he bought it, and only the Malayan cavalry could ride that horse. All of these things combined allowed Mansa Musa to take his inheritance to the next level, and it is estimated that by the end of his reign, he had a net worth of over $400 billion. Now that estimation is largely using gold. We have no idea what the art, the manuscripts, the books, the clothing, all of that stuff, intangible wealth right there as well. Thank you for tuning in today's Black Study Snacks, and make sure you keep on snacking. Magic, black excellence, black habits, this black medicine, everything. Now, some things that I learned from the expansion period for Mansa Musa is, one, it's important to create legendary moments, right? Or memorable moments. A lot of us, before we even know Mansa Musa, we know that story, right? The wealthiest king or the wealthiest person to ever live. He went to Cairo, spent all that gold. That was a legendary moment that literally put Mali on the map of the world. So for you, think about how you can create, no matter how small, how big, how can you create your own mini legendary moments at your high school, at your college, with your followers, right, in your neighborhood? How can you create something that becomes legendary? Number two is it's vital, right? Vital to create an infrastructure or a system that can outwork you and outlive you. Right, so Mansa Musa created all the schools and the mosques to really keep culture and education going way past he was gone. We see Amazon building a tire machine that eventually will get passed on to somebody. Walmart, the legend of Martin Luther King and all of his speeches that we're still able to read and listen to this date. So build something or create something that can, one, go before you. Right now that we have the internet, we can send stuff way faster than we can actually go there, but also something that can really outwork you, and while you're sleeping you are still creating the change that you imagined. And lastly, your team, the people who you surround yourself with, they're an extension of you. So make sure that they have the best that you are able to afford. Whatever Sudanese horses means to you, make sure they have the best fashion, the best glasses, the best cars, the best internet service, the best phone, whatever you feel you're able to provide to your team to make sure that they stay loyal, to make sure that they're able to perform the best that they can. You want to give them the tools that they need to be successful. Thanks for joining us. Keep on. The story of Mali is really the story of the first ever Black Wall Street, right? The OG Greenwood, the first example that we see of really ethno-aggregation on a large scale for the African diaspora. If you do have other examples of civilization that did this, please go ahead and leave the book recommendation, the documentary recommendation. That way we can follow up and do our own research. But today we're going to cover the economy of Mali and some lessons that we are able to take from it. My name is Devon Travell, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game, and this is Black Study Snacks. We give you bite-sized knowledge for hungry, melanated minds. Let's get snacking. Magic, black excellence, black habits, this black medicine. So the economy of Mali was really built on three major pillars: mining, agriculture, and trade. So let's start off with mining. The materials that they were mining the most were obviously gold, right? So it did have a lot of value and it was globally really in demand or desired. They also mined copper, and surprisingly salt had a very high value back then, mostly because it can be used for a lot of different things, right? It can be used to preserve food, curing dehydration, taking care of livestock, and of course, seasoning your food. Yeah, we've been using salt to season food for years, y'all. Ain't nothing new. Now, the source of that food obviously came from our ranchers, our farmers, and our fishermen, which were out there grinding to ensure that the Malayan Empire had a variety of really healthy and good foods to eat. Take that note right there, right? There is a whole district or a whole market set up to make sure that we had the foods. And obviously back then there were no processed foods, so really natural organic was the only way to go. But it's still something to note if we're trying to build the next wave of the Malayan Empire. Is we need our farmers, our ranchers, and our fishermen to ensure our community have fresh and healthy food. And of course, with the bandits and the thieves off of the trade route, Mali was now able to trade freely and safely with the world, including Europe, Asia, China, and Persia. And because, Mali had some really good natural resources, but now with the world coming in, other things that weren't found in Mali were able to be a part of the economy. We see silks, knives, other art pieces and manuscripts, and of course just knowledge and experiences all being brought to Mali. Now everything that came in and out of the Malayan Empire was of course taxed by the king. So this just furthermore led to the growing of wealth. because not only was, Mansa Musa getting wealth from the things inside of the borders of Mali, but as people are bringing in silks, as people are bringing in, exotic animals and art, as other things are coming into the ecosystem of Mali, they're automatically taxed and added to the wealth of the nation, but in particular to the wealth of the king who is in charge. Lastly, an interesting fact that I want to talk about is there were slaves in Africa, right? Sometimes people are saying, oh, there were no slaves. There were slaves. Okay, I'm gonna do my own little piece here, and definitely interested in some of your knowledge. There were slaves, but in most cases, or at least in the Malayan Empire's case, those slaves were paid a wage, right? Not a lot, but enough to live. They were also able to freely marry. They were able to go out and be members of society in some form. And if they saved their wages, they can even purchase their freedom. So yes, there were slaves in that term, but it was nowhere near what we see in the transatlantic slave trade, where folks were put into cattle slavery, not really treated as humans and not given really the opportunity to purchase their freedom.
Black excellence, black habits, this black medicine, everything.
All right, so some takeaways or some lessons that I see in the Malayan economy is, one, leverage your natural resources, right? So whatever is natively on your land or for your own person, right? Whatever you can do naturally and you're just skilled at, figure out how you can use that to gain other resources and other assets. So Mali was obviously rich in gold, rich in minerals, so they used gold as their main trading mechanism to get a lot of other things. Number two is own the kingdom and collect your taxes, right? So Mali was a huge kingdom that had resources and allowed for business to be done within the empire, and all business that was done in the empire, the king got a little piece of it, right? That's kind of the standard in nations these days. We're used to paying taxes. But from a separate side, think of whatever your business is, whatever your infrastructure, your system is, think of it as your kingdom, right? Amazon is a kingdom. Facebook is a kingdom. Walmart is a kingdom. And when you're doing businesses with these kingdoms, you are going to be taxed on sometimes both ends, right? If I want to sell something on Amazon, I need to pay a little fee. And then obviously if you're buying something from Amazon, you're also paying a little fee. So you're kind of getting it both ways. So figure out, what kingdom do you want to own, and how can you collect your taxes or your fees or your small, convenience fee, maintenance fee, whatever you want to call it. What's your kingdom, and how are you going to scale that and collect your fees to build your wealth? Thanks for joining us for today's installment of Black Study Snacks, and make sure you keep on snacking.
Black magic, black excellence, black habits, this black medicine, everything.
All right, it is time to wrap it up. We've been talking about Mansa Musa this week. It's been a pretty good dialogue. I appreciate those who have watched and participated. Feel free to continue to leave your comments, your ideas, and definitely your resources. Like if you have books and documentaries that you would suggest myself or other scholars read, definitely please make sure you put that below. Number one on our takeaways is Mansa Musa inherited the kingdom of Mali. I think that's very important for us to understand as a community, as folks, that it is normal to inherit wealth, and we need to figure out how can we ingrain this into our society. Wills, trusts, life insurance are all tools of passing down generational wealth or passing down assets to folks that are coming behind us, so that we don't start from zero, but we can start from 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, and end up all the way to 100. Number two is think about how you can create legendary moments, right? Again, whatever scale you want to look at, it can be a legendary moment for your family at a family reunion, and then now every time you show with family, they're like, oh hey, it's Devon the Black Wall Street guy, right? Create a moment or a memory with your family, create it with your neighborhood, with your school, group of friends, with your state, with a competition. You never know. And last, there's there's tons of nuggets that we can obviously take from modeling. We may do another deep dive, but last one for this one is build your system or your infrastructure that can outlive and outwork you. This is going to do two things for you. Number one, while you're alive, it's going to allow you to build wealth faster. All right, if you can build a system to where you're asleep and your system's still making money, you're on vacation, your system is still making money. You're driving your motorcycle and your system is still making money. How can you make sure that you're building this infrastructure? Number two, it's going to allow you to create impact even when you have gone on to glory. Right? When you are gone, when you're up there with the angels and the ancestors, you're still going to be able to look down and say, hey, I made that. I'm creating that content, or I'm creating that impact. When we think of Martin Luther King, we're continuously thinking of Martin Luther King. There's tons of streets, tons of schools named after him. When we think of Eric Thomas and all of the impact that he's been able to have on people. When we think of Oprah and all the cars that she's given away. When we think of Beyonce and all the single ladies that she's motivated. Like, there's just people out there who are creating infrastructure and content that will outlive them. So for yourself, what is it for you? What's your amazing gift that makes you special? You're a speaker, you're a designer, you're a great listener, you're an artist, you're a musician, you're an engineer. Everybody has something. So what is that gift? And then how can you use that gift to create something that can talk to people and empower people, even if you're not actually there? So thank you for joining us for today's episode and really the full week of Mansa Musa. I hope you learned something, and I hope you keep on snacking. Peace.